A hot topic in mobile today is how to map audiences between desktop browsers and mobile devices. It's easy to oversimplify this subject, and I'm seeing a lot of misinformation about it in the market. So I want to provide you some clarity here and explain the predominant strategies that are being used. This will hopefully give you the tools that you need to separate the quality solutions from the hype that's out there. And if you don't do that, you could easily be lured into a solution that looks pretty impressive on paper, but completely misses the mark. And you really won't have any way of knowing that other than to suspect it when you get to final campaign results. What most marketers want to do is so seemingly simple. They want to start a conversation in one medium and continue that conversation as the prospect switches devices. For example, it starts with a Google search at work. Then banners pop up on a sports app in the afternoon on a smartphone, and again on a tablet in the evening, and then perhaps later on Facebook. We want to follow our user around and use all these touch points in some coordinated way. So there are two general approaches here, deterministic and probabilistic. Deterministic is the case where there's a common login ID that ties all these devices together. But the other approach that I want to spend some time on here is considered probabilistic, meaning that there's a set of data points that suggests that it's the same user on multiple devices to some acceptable level of statistical probability. In fact, the more sophisticated approaches actually score the statistical probability of a match for you, so you can take that into consideration for your campaign. Now, the exact methodology here, the science, is obviously protected as intellectual property, and the degree of success claims of competing approaches makes for pretty good trade show panels. But I can demystify some of this for you. Many homes now have Wi-Fi, and thus there's a common IP address for all the devices that eventually come home. If you can separate that IP address from coffee shops and malls and offices, and your algorithms are tuned well enough to ignore the occasional visitor that might come to your home, you can, with reasonable certainty, tie all those devices together to a household. And that's a pretty good start. In fact, if your algorithms are even better, you might even be able to detect devices traveling together in patterns, home, office, for example. But remember, and a lot of people miss this, your mobile devices aren't beacons. They're not constantly broadcasting their location. They need to be calling for ads or hitting pages with pixels in order for these patterns to be observed. Another strategy is to make the assumption that users do pretty much the same things on their mobile devices as they do on their desktop devices, and that there's enough entropy in that data to tell users apart. So hey, if we all go to Pandora and Facebook, that may not tell us much. But if you go to Astrology Haven website on your desktop, and then you download the Astrology Haven app, now we're getting somewhere. Especially if you also have a Hotmail account and you check weather in your hometown of, say, Perry, Michigan, which is my hometown, population 3,000. And you repeatedly search for 2005 red Mustang convertibles on every device you've got. That's not fingerprinting, by the way. That's totally different. It's user behavior tracking. All this comes down to confidence and what your tolerances are based on what you're trying to do. These approaches and strategies are not necessarily good or bad. They're really just tools in a toolbox, and if you understand them really well, you can decide which tool to use in which specific circumstance. That's the real art to this. So the more you know, the better your chances of getting it right.